This is the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest intercontinental heavyweight champion of all time, and you're listening to the Gerwick Report podcast with Steve Gerwick and fabulous Frankie D.
Day, March the 10th, 2016. I am Steve Gerwick of www.gerweck.net. Gerwick.net is your source for all your pro wrestling news since 1997. And today, Frank D., we have a very special guest. But quickly, let me tag in my longtime tag team partner, Frank D.
That's right, Frank D. here, host of the Raw Deal podcast, which you can listen to right now at Gerwick.net. Also, the official Gerwick.net t-shirts, ProWrestlingTees.com/Gerwick, also YouTube.com/Gerwick Report Podcast. That's the official YouTube channel, Gerwick.net. Tons of interviews up there that we've done in the past, just like the one we're going to do today.
Because we're welcoming back today a very special guest here on the GRP. He is cool, he's cocky, he's bad, he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion of all time, Steve.
Thank you for that fine introduction. Listen, when you give out all those accolades in the beginning, like Gerwick.net, or Gerwick.com, Gerwick here, I was watching a TV show the other night, and they were going through some of these political people. Yes, you were the secretary of this and the vice secretary. By the time they read out the guy's resume, the show's over. But anyway, it's good to be here with you guys. It's been quite a while, and I enjoy all the work that you guys do. And it's the first click on the news sites that I go to for wrestling is the Gerwick.net. And in fact, I was just on a few minutes ago. I wanted to catch up for the last-minute news.
So he's up to date as he does this interview, so definitely check out Gerwick.net. One more cheap plug there for all your wrestling news. And, of course, Honky Tonk Man is at honkytonkman.net, and you can also follow him on Twitter at officialHTM. So since we've talked to you last, what's been going on?
Well, I still do the same thing, just not as much. I don't do as much in-the-ring wrestling. I've tried to transition a little bit away from that. Not because I just don't want to do it anymore, but it's one of those things where the young kids today, they're more excited. They want to do more things than I really want to do at my age, and I think everyone knows it's public knowledge out there. I'm 63 years old, drawing Social Security, and I don't go. I don't go out on the weekends to get kicked in the head. You know, I'd like to go out, put on a nice show for the wrestling fans and have fun, but the kids get excited, so I tend to back away from the ring a little bit now, and it's always got to be a tag match or a 6-man tag or an 8-man where I'm a hell of a cheerleader.
And as I understand it, too, you have a new show, the one-man show. Tell us about this. Oh,
gosh, yes. That's and I'm glad I sent out a press release and you guys ran it for me. And it's not something I'm doing for, to follow along with someone else that people might think, well, this guy's got one of these shows and this guy's doing it and JR's going around and he's doing one. Lanny Poffo and myself did one of these 5 or 6 years ago up near the St. Louis area. And I thought it was fun. It was great. And I tried to pursue it then. But I didn't have a real avenue of someone to help me promote it. It didn't get off the ground, but as I toured around the world and I do wrestling teaching seminars, I would incorporate pretty much all these things that the one-man show does. And the people liked it and they enjoyed it. And so I had started on it about 2 years ago and I put it on the back burner. And now I said, the heck with it. I'm not wrestling so much anymore. And give me something to do, and I'll go out. Of course, it's cutting edge. It's Honky Tonk Man. It's shake, rattle, and roll. It's controversial. We leave no subject or look. No one's exempt. But it's fun. It's fun. I can make it family entertainment, or I can make it adult entertainment. Whatever the venue likes or wants to have, or however we do it. And it's an hour and a half of really fun stories, jokes, and things of that nature.
Now, so you got a show coming up on the 24th. Why don't you go ahead and plug the website where people can get more information and possibly get tickets?
Yes, that's over in Effingham, Illinois, down in southern Illinois, for some of the people know. And it's a really a nice big venue over there that this show is going to be in. And you go over to just look on Twitter. I have it posted. I don't have the exact website for that, but they're selling tickets for it now. They had pre-sales on it, and it's going to be pretty good. I'm going to get a videotape of it, of this show, which is important when you're doing the comedy stuff, I think, because the clubs, some comedy people are not into the wrestling so much. They don't know a lot about us, but this show we're going to tape it, and I'll send you guys some clips out of it so you can look at it and post it. But it's really going to be fun. It's really going to be fun, and the fans they're going to enjoy it. Let me see. I just pulled this page up. It's at the-epc.org, and it's called the Effingham Performance Center. They put all big name celebrities and bands and things of that nature in there. It's a beautiful place, and it's going to be fun. Kick the show off, get a video of it. I'll send you guys some clips, and then you can show it, and with my permission, not like Hulk Hogan sex tape.
Which we'll get to here momentarily. Quickly, 217-540-2788. If you're in Illinois, want to check out the Honky Tonk Man show. I mean, I'd like to see that myself. And you got a big tour coming up with the show itself?
Yes, we're going to take it from there, and we're going to up north in Minnesota to a show. Then I'm taking it overseas to Wales in England when I go for the Comic-Con at the end of April. Then it's going down to New Zealand with it in June. So it's kind of a world tour. I have dates booked in Reno, Sacramento, and San Francisco coming up in August.
So definitely stay tuned for Honky Tonk Man. He's on this big tour. You definitely check him out.
I told you guys I'm trying to transition out of getting kicked in the head. I'd rather tell funny stories than come home all beat up. And my son saying, "Dad, are we going to play golf today?" And I said, "Well, heck, I can't even swing the club. This kid kicked me in the arm."
Well, how many more years are we going to see Honky Tonk Man inside the squared circle?
I've always said this. I'll keep going until I can't lace my boots anymore. But now that I've gained about 30 pounds, somebody posted something about a Dunkin' Donuts thing where I was with one of the guys here 5 years ago, and they pulled in to get coffee, and I was over there getting the coffee, and there's a big sign of Dunkin' Donuts. I said, "Well, we know what happened to Honky Tonk Man." But anyway, I got slip-on boots now, so I guess I'll keep going as long as somebody calls me. I
mean, that's the thing. If the promoters are calling, they still want the Honky Tonk Man. Well, the fans obviously still do. So
that's what it's all about. And the Legends, Steve and you guys, the Legends thing, and I think you guys realize this, the Legends has really, really picked up in the last few years, and the fans, they want to see it. They want to relive history. They want to go back into, a time of their life that was fun and they enjoyed, and that's why we do so well. And I think that's why they brought back the Hall of Fame. For so many years, the Hall of Fame was gone from WWE, and now it's back, and it's as big as anything. 20,000 people for the Hall of Fame, that's not bad.
Do you think with today's product, the ratings, you follow the news, the ratings are down across the board, WWE, TNA, etc. Do you think that's a product of, fans are kind of frustrated with today's product, or is it just the nostalgia? Do they want to see some of the old-timers out there?
It's a combination. Now, I'm not going to say that us old-timers can come back on TV and make an impact at all. No, we're not. Those days are going by, and I had mentioned it the other day in the locker room. Bill Eadie and I were talking Demolition Acts, and I said, the years that we could have been helped and been productive in our late 40s and early 50s. Back when I started in the business, I would watch at the curtain and say, "Gosh, that's Lou Thez out there. He's 50 years old. I'll be glad when I get to be 50 and I can work in the main event and I can do these matches like they do." And we both agreed that, but we were put on the shelf, during our 40s, and that 10 years or 12 years that we didn't get called to do anything. Father Time, of course, passed us by, and then it became too late. And then when they do try to bring us back to stop the bleeding on something, we're just a little Band-Aid that doesn't stay very long. So it's the product itself is it's a fast-moving TV show now. Everyone wants to go out and make sure they don't switch the channels on the clicker and keep it moving, and every match is the same, and everybody does the same stuff, and it's not a real good storylines anymore. And I'll be honest with you, all the wrestling around the world is hurting for quality talent. There's just not anyone catching on out there.
I kind of agree with you, but then I kind of disagree with you because I think that if you look at the WWE's TV right now, I mean, they have a lot of quality talent down there at NXT. I don't think those talents are being utilized correctly when they come to the main roster, though. I mean, I look at guys like Tyler Breeze, who I think is an incredible talent, but he comes up to Monday Night Raw, and he's nothing more now than a jobber. So,
well, let me put it this way, and when I say quality talent, I mean the one that has. The first day I saw this kid, I knew he was going to be a star, and that's The Rock. He can work in the ring. He can talk. He's got charisma. He's got that. Well, I don't want to use Lex Luger's thing, but the total package. That's what I mean about the quality talent. Now,
right.
as far as finding good wrestlers out there and good stuntmen and guys that do flips and twists and tumbles and bumps and all these things, there's millions of those. I'm talking about the quality, as in the ones that catch on and can sell tickets and sell out buildings because the fans want to see them. There's tons of talent, yes, and NXT is loaded with talent. TNA's had plenty of talent. There's not a lack of that. There's a lack of that main event caliber of a person that can go out and capture the imagination of the fans and get those fans to buy tickets.
So do you think that the current WWE product right now, and their Roman Reigns is the guy that they're going to go with, do you think that Roman Reigns is capable of being that guy where people will invest in him and will buy tickets to see him perform?
I've not watched a lot of what they do. Obviously, if you're not working for a certain company, you don't watch everything they do. I read you guys. I read Garrett.net, and I get the news report every day. So I'm not really studying what the talent is doing or what they're all about. I think he has as good of opportunity as anyone to go out and be a breakout star. Whether the fans catch on or not, that's an intangible. That is something that you cannot teach someone. You cannot make the fans love or hate someone. It has to be some kind of an ability that a person has to do that. I was very fortunate that I could go out and make the fans hate me. I had every person in the world wanting to kill me. I had every person in the world thinking that if I walked down the street looking for a fight, they could kick my butt. I had every person that bought a ticket wanted to see me lose. No matter who beat me, they didn't care. And that's an intangible thing that can't be taught. The same as being a good guy. Now, we get to Hogan or we get to The Rock or Stone Cold. I remember Stone Cold once asked me, he said, we were sitting in a Denny's restaurant over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he said, the fans, they're cheering for me, and I don't really like for them to cheer for me. I want to be this bad guy. And I told him, I said, don't change anything you're doing. If they're cheering for you, keep doing what you're doing and just go with it. And consequently, he became the number one good guy by doing dastardly deeds, by being a bad guy. So it really is up to the fans. And I'm telling you, the WWE, TNA, any wrestling company around the world, they have to be scratching their head day after day trying to figure out that combination of what they can put out there that people are going to gravitate to. It's not an easy chore.
We just had Vince Russo on this podcast, and he said wrestling is passé. Do you agree with that?
In some respects, wrestling is a fad like a lot of other things. I think we've lost a lot of our crowd to this MMA, UFC. I think we have lost, and I say we as being professional wrestling, because that's my product. I think we have lost a lot of pretty good talent that might have been or could be very good in the professional wrestling. I think we are losing a lot of those young people to the MMA, UFC style. They want to do that now. They don't. If you said, do you want to be an MMA star, UFC star, or do you want to be in professional wrestling? A lot of them say, I want to be in MMA and UFC. They hear of all of this. It's the money. MMA and UFC throwing money around that these kids hear about, and They don't want to do pro wrestling anymore. They don't want to toil away for 10 or 12 years, riding 4 people in a car, going 300 miles and not making any money. They want to go out and they want to shoot fight. And that's the mentality of some of the young people now. And I think we're losing a lot of good talent to those other organizations.
I just don't feel like wrestling is cool. I think it's just lost that coolness edge, and I don't know how they get. I don't know how they get that back at this point.
I know. So what's cool right now? UFC. Yeah. UFC's cool. Everybody wants to. They all want to be that and do that. And I don't know why we're losing them to it. I don't know why. Because the UFC product, it's not any better than what WWE puts on. I mean, no one can put a show on like the WWE does. No one can put this slick production on it. The lights and the cameras and the fireworks and the 70, 80,000 people at a WrestleMania. No one can do that. But the people are gravitating towards this shoot fight stuff. And I'm telling you, we as wrestlers are not shoot fighters, as was proven when they did the Tough Man stuff where Butterbean just came in there and killed a couple of our guys. It's like, why would you put us with boxing gloves on to show that we're tough men? We're not.
Brawl for all, right?
Yeah, well, that's what it was called. Boy, was that was a bathroom sound.
Honky, Raw is 3 hours, and I just can't sit through 3 hours, especially when the product is just not engaging. The characters are just not over. And I mean, even in your heyday, I mean, prime time. I grew up watching primetime wrestling on Monday nights. Gorilla and Bobby the Brain in the studios, and I can't imagine that would have been popular with a 3-hour show. It just seems like it's just too much, and we're just not getting the quality entertainment we once had.
I don't know, and I don't go to the movies because I don't want to sit 3 hours anywhere. I'm not in love with going to a baseball game that lasts 4 hours. I'm like you, and I understand why they do the 3 hours, because television is a moneymaker. Television is the backbone of the paychecks that WWE gets and that they get and what they give out. If and you said it, if during our time being the Hulk Hogan era and the rock and wrestling that we did, if we were a 3-hour show, we would have died horribly, because our talent was great talent, but we couldn't carry a 3-hour show. It's very difficult. It's hard. It's hard to keep people's attention more than 10 minutes on anything.
Well, the
Sometimes
idea, Honky,
5 minutes.
The idea is to give me something that makes me want to tune in next week. And if you give me 3 hours of fluff, I could miss 6 Raws in a row and get caught up within a heartbeat.
Well, that's the problem. And let me backtrack a second and say it's really not the talent's fault. In a lot of respect, it's not the fault that they're not as of a quality of that. Even if you took the greatest talent in the world and you stuck him out there for 3 hours, somebody's going to FART at him. I mean, it's going to be boring. I don't care. I mean, I'll go back to my era. How many times could you sit in 3 hours and listen? Hey, brother. I mean, no matter how great you are, it gets redundant. So, as a little humor, so you guys are laughing. This is going to be on my comedy show. Don't worry.
Do you think that the death of WCW, 15 years ago, that's playing a part in why wrestling is no longer the popular thing?
No, I don't think the WCW, the death of that. I mean, that was a slow death coming anyway. It was. I've said this before. You can't kill something that was already dead, and WCW was dead before the invasion or before the Click and what were they called, NWO. That product, that particular show was on a real downslide for many years before that. It was not. We didn't even consider them competition when I was over in WWE. when it was WWF, and we didn't care about what the NWA and Charlotte and those people, what they were doing on TBS in Atlanta. They were at that point in time, that was a minor league show, and no one really cared. And then when they tried to really do something, invested a lot of money in it, it picked up some steam. I think it gave WWE and those people over there a reason to step up their game a little bit and make some investment into people like the Mike Tyson and the big angle they did at that WrestleMania that put them back over the top. And but that was a slow death coming over there. I don't think it had so much of an effect at all. I don't think it was because people started to look at wrestling different. The two shows were very similar anyway. It wasn't like that there was two different products. The TNA show, why it has never caught on. There again, you have the top stars from the 80s, from the 90s, and the 2000s, and they've used a lot of top guys, and for some reason the show never catches on. I don't know.
Yeah, TNA's for sale, Honky. If you got like $10, you might be able to buy it.
Boy, I think I'll use that in my comedy act too. But no, it's too bad, and here's why I say it's too bad. And I have been extremely critical of their product all the way through from day one, and that's public knowledge. You guys know that.
Yep.
But the sad part is this, that we're losing places for young talent to perfect their craft. We've lost the territories. We've lost a lot of good independent wrestling promoters have just finally said the heck with it and dropped out. And there's been other wrestling shows that's come along and fell by the wayside. And it's too bad, because if you don't have an avenue for young talent to perfect their craft, then we're going to be in this stalemate. And, you say, they got NXT. That's a place for them to do it. And that's a great idea. It really is. The only problem the one thing that this is me personally now, not opinion of anyone else, I just don't think you can go over to the colleges and get college wrestlers or these like they were doing. Now, I have to say, they have changed a little bit now by bringing in Kevin Owens and by bringing in Samoa Joe and by bringing in, when they brought in CM Punk and they brought Cesaro and Bryan Daniels, they brought in some people from the independent ranks that have been out toiling and learning and perfecting their craft, and they're starting to use them now. A couple of 3-4 years ago, they didn't have anyone from the independents. It was like independent wrestlers were hard garbage. We don't want to see them. We don't want to look at them. Some of these kids have been out here on the independents for 10 or 12 years. They understand the business. But there you go. You cannot learn this business in a training facility. I don't care how beautiful it is. I don't care how slick it is. You have to learn professional wrestling at the grassroots, out in these towns, in the barns, in the fields, in the dust and the dirt where a ring is set up. That's how you learn.
Do you think the hesitation from WWE to sign a lot of the independent stars, and even over the years TNA stars, is that they want a brand new rookie, green as can be? We're going to teach him the way we want him to teach him. We don't want him to come in with, he learned from this wrestling school, he learned this style. We want the green guy just out of high school or just out of college wrestling, and we can train him the way we want to train him.
Well, it hasn't worked. So, that's
like the mentality, right, from WWE's perspective.
It seemed to have been for a while. It's tended changing a little bit, but not a whole lot. They still tend to bring in a good independent talent, a good guy and I've worked with a lot of these guys out on the independent circuit for the last 20 years. There again, WWE had never called me when I was doing 40, 50 shows a year around the world. They never called and said, listen, we're looking for a 6'6" cowboy. Have you seen one around anywhere? It was like, okay, here, I might know 10 guys that you could use. But they never cared. We find our own guys. Okay, good. Find your own guys. Good luck. How are you going to find them? You're not going to find them sitting in a corporate boardroom, and you're not going to find them because someone sends you a tape of a highlight reel, and, of course, the highlight reel is highlights. You have to see someone, watch him, be in the car with him for 3-4 hours. You find out what kind of person they are, and you say, okay, this kid's got a chance. I don't think that when they bring the independent guys up, they should let them be themselves. No one. That's the one thing that Vince did with our characters from the past. He let us go out and do our thing. You couldn't tell me how to do my interview. You could tweak it a little bit, and he'd say, itch and twitch and, be shaking like Elvis and look over here and give this little smile. Those are little tweaks. But he never came to me and said, say it this way or stand this way or talk like this. You can't go out and tell, hey, brother, biggest arms in the world, brother. Hey, don't ever say that again. Gosh, he built his whole character on the biggest arms in the world. 22-inch pythons, brother. So when you take those things away, you've hampered their ability to be themselves. You might have to do 20 characters to find the right one, and I did 20. I did 20 of them. I was a masked guy. I was a medic. I was an invader. I was this. I was that. I was a punk rocker. I was myself. Even being myself, I wasn't myself. I had to be the Honky Tonk Man to be that character.
I think you hit the essence of the problem is the territories, and as you said, the territories are gone. A lot of the good promoters are gone. I mean, back in the day, you had Portland, you had Memphis, you had Nashville, you had these different territories where when guys came to the big time, as you said, they've been everywhere. They traveled in the car. They worked in front of 20 people and 30 people and different crowds and different sizes of crowds and knew how to work a mic. And now it's green guys trying to get over to a certain degree, and that's
when I went to WWE, the locker room was full of guys that were, everyone in the locker room had been in the business 10, 12 years, 14, 15 years, 20 years. Everyone on the cards that we were on, all, with the exception of maybe the young stallions, they were like the youngest guys around, and they had been around 4 or 5 years. Everyone else had been around, and everyone was main event somewhere. Multiple-time main eventers in territories. We all knew our gimmick. We all knew our persona. We all knew what to do and how to do it. And that's the beauty of it, was Vince let us do it. And he didn't confine us or constrict us. But once all of us guys were gone, they wanted a new product. They got a new product, and now, well, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Let me say this. I might get a lot of flack from WWE, but I really don't care. They don't call me, I don't call them. They don't ask me for anything, I don't ask them for anything. With all the money that company has, with all the money that company spends on certain things, on a lot of things, why wouldn't they say, okay, we're going to take these NXT guys, and for the next month or 6 weeks, we're going out to Texas. And we're going to book towns 300 miles apart. We're going to put them all in little bitty cars, and they're going to ride together for 300 miles. They're going to sleep 3-4 guys in a hotel room. We're going to set the ring up in a cattle barn. We're going to set the ring up out here in the desert. And for the next 6 weeks, we're going to do it this way. Okay, well, we're not going to make any money. Well, you're not making any money with NXT anyway down in Florida. Take it out there on the road somewhere. This is where you find out how many of these young college, high school wrestlers and these people you pick up somewhere, do they really want it? Okay, they stick now. Let's move on out to California. Let's run spot shows out there. We're going to run 7 days a week. We're going to run you ragged. It's got to be like a boot camp. Not set-ups and squats and taking 20 slams in a row. And you got to do real life stuff. You got to be in front of live fire. And you know what? You'll come out of there with a few people that'll make it. That'll be top stars.
Hey, this is Frank D of Gurwick.net. If you like what you're listening to right now and want to make a financial contribution to our show, check out ProWrestlingTees.com/Gurwick today. That's the official merchandise store of Gurwick.net. We have 8 great designs, $19.99 plus shipping and handling. We'll get you one of our great shirts. We have the Raw Deal Podcast t-shirt, Gerwick.net t-shirts and Gerwick Report podcast t-shirts. Once again, $19.99 plus shipping and handling. They ship domestically. They ship internationally. They accept PayPal, credit, and debit. So they got you covered there. Check out ProWrestlingTees.com/Gerwick today. We appreciate your support.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the Gerwick Report podcast. Additionally, check out The Rack Show with Lindsay Ward and Sir Rockin', Breaking Raw with Atlee Green and John Shoes as they break down every edition of Monday Night Raw, Pro Wrestling Nation with Sam Medina, and The Raw Deal with Atlee Green and my main man, my tag team partner, Frank D. All available at www.gerweck.net.
Check out youtube.com/Gerwick Report Podcast today. Subscribe to our channel, like our videos, leave your comments. We definitely appreciate your support.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I am the infamous Carolina D. Waters, here to tell you that for all your wrestling news, rumors, and gossip, you need to go to Gerwick.net.
Do you think that WWE is afraid of going back to that mentality, though, seeing that they are a publicly traded company? They don't want to go through the rigors of, say, all the stuff that happened in the territories?
Well, let's put it this way. You just said it. They don't want to go through the fact that somebody say, this is too hard on us. This is terrible. Oh, he called me a bad name. He hurt my feelings.
Yeah, but they already went through that with Bill DeMott.
So then the next thing you know, you got public outcry. It's a publicly traded company. We can't do business the way we used to. We can't do it that way. You can't tell a trainee, you're horrible. You suck. Oh, guys, he hurt my feelings. I'm going to sue him. It's upside down, man. It's upside down. He's harassing me. He made me do extra push-ups. Oh, please. But that's the situation, I think, that has taken over, not just the wrestling business. I think it's taken over a lot of things in pro sports, and it's taken over a lot of things in our society. We're just not free to do things anymore.
Do you think the WWE Network is hurting WWE today in terms, it's good for business. They have 1 million subscribers, but fans like me go back and they watch Primetime Wrestling and the old Raws and Shotgun Saturday Night. Do you think that's hurting WWE overall?
Well, I don't think so. No, I think it's good for people to look at history because for so many years WWE would never even mention anything historical. If you guys remember, they cut out the Hall of Fame, and for several years they never even mentioned legends. They never mentioned anything about the past. They didn't show old clips on things of nothing. The network it's doing great for them. Obviously, financially it must be, or they wouldn't have it. Let's put it that way. And what it's done for guys like me, and I can't really say anything bad about it because it's rejuvenated me as a character to the younger audience. When I go out and do shows or do autograph signings and do Comic Cons, I have been, put in front of a lot more people that would have forgotten about me if it hadn't been for the network. So the network in that way is good, and I think history and nostalgia, it's good. It's good for everyone. I think we the one thing that we might be missing across our nation is a lot of historical facts and historical things that we should know about, as opposed to not knowing anything about what happened in our past. I think our past is very important.
And speaking of the past, we are in March here, and it is the 15-year anniversary of the death of WCW. And Honky Tonk, man, you spent some time down there at WCW.
Now, wait a minute. I wasn't there. You should say you spent a very short time down there.
Okay. You spent a couple of days down there at WCW. You spent a couple of days down at WCW. They brought you into the company. You were under the impression that you were going to get a contract from WCW, and then you were let go because Eric Bischoff says you refused to do a job.
Yes, absolutely.
Care to tell that story?
As a contract player, obviously you sign a contract, you're not refusing to do anything. As a non-contract player, I think I would have creative control over what I am going to and what I am not going to do. And so that's how it played out. I mean, all these things were made promises, and I read an interview or something that Bischoff had said he wasn't in tune with Hulk coming in and wanting to bring in all these all these people from the past, and WWE that was very successful for WWE. But when you look at the other hand, now he brought in, of course, Hall and Nash and Macho Man, and the list went on and on and on of people that he brought in from the past that were very successful in WWE. So that part of his conversation didn't hold water. But it's saying that I feel like it's a badge of honor now to think that Eric Bischoff thought so much of me to put it in his book and has gone on record as saying the one guy he loved firing the most was Honky Tonk Man. I said, well, that's great. I'm glad you think about me that way. It's better to be thought of than not thought of in our business. But the contract, it was promised to me, and it didn't come along. And of course, my whole deal, even with WWE, had always been take care of me on television, which means, don't go out and abuse me on TV, because television is a very powerful tool. And at that point in time in WCW, WWE was still going strong. There was other territories I could go to. But if you're getting slaughtered and killed on television, and it decreases your value anywhere, and without that contract, I had no value. And I could have gone out and said, okay, Eric, I'll go out and do this job tonight, and can we sit down and talk about a contract tomorrow? Tomorrow might never have come. I might have walked through the curtain and said, we don't need you tomorrow. We're finished with you. So, I had nothing going into it, and I had nothing coming out of it. And at that point in time, I made a personal and professional decision to politely tell him to stick it up his ass.
What was the heat with you and Eric Bischoff, man?
To this day, he has never said to anyone publicly or privately that I know of. He never told me, and I did not even know the fella until I walked up and shook his hand at the Universal Studios that day and introduced myself. I knew nothing. All I know is when he says, the only reason I'm bringing you in is to keep Jimmy Hart's just driving me crazy, but wanting to bring you in. I was never a fan of your character. I called my wife. I told him. I said, well, I hope I can change your mind, Eric. And we shook hands, and I walked straight to the payphone and called my wife and said, I'm not going to be here long. She said, oh, well, what happened now? Because, I quit and walked out and been fired everywhere. So it was just another day in my life. She said, what happened now? And I said, well, the guy that signs the checks and gives out the contracts, he's not a fan of mine. So she said, well, just see what happens. I said, yeah, okay, I will. About 4 or 5 weeks later, I was gone. So let me tell you something about the WCW. People ask me all the time, what was that song you had in WCW? And I said, I wasn't there long enough to learn the words. So I don't know.
What was your relationship, though, with Hulk Hogan during this period of time? Because, you had one pay-per-view match, I remember, it was in Halloween Havoc, I believe, 94. And that was it. So what was the relationship? After you, Randy Savage eventually came over in December of 94. He debuted at Starrcade. So, what's the relationship here with Hogan? You trying to tell Hogan what's going on with this guy Bischoff?
Really, we didn't have a lot of conversation about it, other than I was in Detroit, and the first big match that I had in Detroit was, I don't know, was that the Halloween Havoc?
Yeah, I think it was for the TV title with Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah, I had to go like a 20-minute time limit draw with him.
Something like that, yeah.
In the very first match on the card, and I pulled Hogan into. Now, Mr. T was there, and there was all sorts of political things going on with that and different stuff. But anyway, I caught Hogan coming down the thing. I said, hey, brother, come here. Hey, wait, brother, come here, brother. So I pull him into the shower room, and I said, what's the deal here? What's going on? And he was, I guess he really didn't know what was going on. I thought he should have known. I thought he was actually the guy that was running the knowing what was going on. He said, what do you mean? I said, they got me in the first match with this kid out here and going 20 minutes through. I said, what's the deal? I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? I said, is this what I'm here for? The opening match going a time limit with this guy? And, after being the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time and selling out buildings around the world time and time again, I'm reduced to the first match and having to go a 20-minute draw. That's a jabroni match in our business. That's underneath the bullshit. So, and he said, I'll find out. I'll see what's going on. Well, I didn't hear anything, but I had to go to the ring, and I went out and I did what I was supposed to do. And I think I did tell him, if I remember correctly, I said, if this is all they got for me, I'm not going to be here very long. Hey, brother, relax, brother. Take it easy, brother. Brother. So that's where that went. And then as time went on, it was, my friend Rick Rogers came to me once at the TV. We were taping. He said, did they tell you you were, yeah, because Ric Flair come to me. He said, you're going to get the TV title. Okay, good. But I'm thinking, what about the contract? The hell with the title. I want a contract. I want the money. I don't do this because I want some silly-ass belt around my waist that I could care less about. I need a contract that has guaranteed money like everyone else has. All I want, I don't want any demands. I just want to be treated fairly. That's all. Treat me the same as you would anybody else. So Flair tells me, and then we're doing a TV taping in Atlanta, and my friend Rick Rogers comes over, and he said, I thought you were getting a TV title. I said, yeah. He said, well, this is showing 2 weeks from now, and you're going on this match, right? I said, yeah. He said, you don't have the belt. I said, no. He said, well, you're not going to have the belt 2 weeks from now because that's when this is showing. I said, oh, okay. Okay, now I see. And then about a week or so later is when Eric Bischoff and I had our little confrontation there in Nashville, and I politely told him where to take his WCW.
So what type of money, Honky, if you can tell us, were you asking for here?
I didn't ask for any money. And I think Eric Bischoff is on record saying he never asked for money. He just didn't want to do the job. And I did not ask for money because I didn't know what they were paying. I know they had minimum contracts over there of like $75,000, $85,000, $100,000, $125,000. I think I heard numbers that some of the guys there were on $250,000, $350,000, $450,000. Then when I left, the numbers went way up. They went up to $900,000, $1.5, $1.8 million, and all these things. So, the only conversation I really had with Bischoff about money was that when he brought me into the office up there and said that he had some bad contracts on the books, and when he freed up some money, then he'd get me a good contract. And we never really talked about a dollar figure at all. And I saw it in a newspaper, or I read it on one of the sites somewhere. This might have been before the internet. I don't know. But I had read where Steve Regal, Lord Steve Regal, is in WWE now, fabulous guy, great guy. He had mentioned something to the Miami guy that was doing wrestling stories, that his contract was coming up and he was probably going to explore other avenues. And they immediately heard the story and renewed him. And my friend Brad Armstrong came in one day to say hello to me, and he said, I don't want them to see me around here. They haven't used me in like 6 months. And he said, my contract's coming up, and if they see me, they might not renew me. So he said hello and got out, and he got renewed for another 2 years. So that's how that thing was running.
Wow.
And so, but for Bischoff to tell me he was not renewing, he was going to free up money, but the contracts were still being given out, then obviously he wasn't as truthful to me as he should have been. You know, I used it for what it's worth. I got my $1,000 every time I showed up, and that was it. And then pretty soon I drifted away.
Well, let me ask you this question.
And actually, I never looked back. I could care less.
Right. With the money...
Now, believe me, I could have used the money. Of course, we all could. But as far as it being something that destroyed my life, absolutely not. I could care less.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. With the big money contracts that they were giving out, guys making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. You're a former Intercontinental Champion from the WWF. I mean, in your opinion, what do you think your value was at that time in 1994 in WCW?
I would have to say as much as the guy was wrestling. I think Mark Merrill was on $250,000 at the time, and I think what was the kid that did the angle with Austin with the gun? He's passed away now.
Pillman, Brian Pillman.
Brian Pillman. I think Brian was on $250,000 or $300,000 or something, and you know, I'd heard stories that the other guys, some guys on $650,000, $750,000. I just want to make a decent living, man.
Right.
That's all. I mean, I'm not going to go there and make demands. I'm in between jobs, and I'm not working for WWE. And who am I to make a demand? And I have never demanded things like I gotta have this or you can. You know, I don't want to have M&Ms in the locker room, and I don't want to have just pay me. Just give me a decent pay that we're all happy with, and I'll do whatever you want.
And my last question as it relates to WCW and Honky Tonk Man, what do you feel led to the downfall of that company?
That was the era of guaranteed, solid talent agent contracts. Not negotiated by the talent, but negotiated by agents. One of the biggest ones was out of Minnesota, who had all those guys out of there. They all have agents, and I think his name was Barry Bloom, maybe. If that's something that might be historical, I think it was. I know Jesse Ventura used that fellow negotiating with Vince on a few occasions when Jesse had some work to do. All these guys were with Barry out of Minnesota. I wasn't. I didn't have an agent. I never had a talent agent do things for me because sometimes I don't think they understand the wrestling business. So the guaranteed contract where a guy, and I'll use him as an example, and Mark might be able to tell you was it true or not. Mark Merrow, when I was there, he came back from an ankle injury. He'd been off for several months with his ankle. Had an ankle injury, and the whole time he was off, and in fact he told me, he said, "I've been off for an ankle injury. I'm so happy to come back, and I look forward to working with you and doing all these things with you, and it's going to be wonderful." And he was excited, and I couldn't get excited about it because I knew he was getting paid to sit home. Guys were getting paid to sit home. Guys were getting paid to not even show up there. And that is the downfall of any company. You cannot pay an employee to not be at work. I don't understand how any company could survive. I heard stories like, "Oh gosh, we only lost $90 million. We lost $80 million this year. That's down from $90 million the year before." Oh, it's fabulous. Boy, that's an arrow in your hat to lose 80 or 90 million. You know who I blame it on? Ted Turner, who owned the company. Ted let it get out of hand, and he obviously let it run. Time Warner took over. Bye-bye WCW.
What was the situation where they had, Lanny Poffo under contract? You never worked there? Never.
It was crazy. I mean, not to hammer on Hogan any more than I already have, but I mean, Hogan himself it's public record that he said it was a 24-hour ATM machine. And that's a hell of a thing for somebody who works for a company to say about the company. It's a 24-hour ATM machine, man. Money's flowing like wine.
Yeah, I think Holland.
I'm not disgruntled. I just didn't get any of it.
Yeah.
If that makes me disgruntled, I guess I am.
I think wasn't Hall and Nash down there on Favored Nations?
I don't know what their deal was, but they came out of there. I mean, like, and God bless Jim Ross. I wish he'd have went on TV and said, we hear that Honky Tonk Man might be heading up north, and next thing you know, you get a $50,000 bonus out of WCW. I think them guys should have kicked Jim back some little finder's fee on that money, you know, because every time he'd go on WWE TV and say, I hear things about some guys down in the South heading up north. Holy shit, Eric Bischoff was opening a checkbook.
So in 1994, Frank, here's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Headlines Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden, WrestleManias, and they bring him in to be the curtain jerker.
Yep.
It's no different than what happened with Tamala when he went down to WCW. And here's a guy who had been, you know, a vicious heel, and he gets down there, and I don't think he had a contract either. I think they paid him, like, from what I heard, $800 per appearance.
Yeah, and you know, if you really want to hear it, you got to listen to old Hacksaw Jim Duggan there, you know. When he tells a story about how they were trying to make, I mean, it's his story, so he should tell it. They were trying to make him quit. They made him get down in the toilet and do the toilets and stuff. I mean, at least I got out of there with my dignity. So it is what it is in our business, and I love the business. I love professional wrestling. I've loved it since the first day I started in it. I didn't love it as a child watching it or growing up or anything of that nature. I wanted to be in pro sports, and I wanted to be in entertainment. I particularly wanted to be in radio, not in movies or anything. And I've had the best of both worlds. I've been in somewhat of a pro sport and an entertainment business, and it's been wonderful for me. It's been a hard grind. It's been tough. It's not for the weak at heart. It's not for the thin-skinned. You know, if you can't take criticism, if you can't take people that stab you in the back, talk about you, if you can't take the wrestling fans that either love you or hate you, and if you can't take exposing your family to all this, then you're definitely in the wrong business, and it's not for you. I think when they interview the people, these young kids coming in, they should have someone that can stand there in front of them and say, listen, this is what happens. You're going to have people that say stuff to your wife and your children out here in the public, you know, about your business, and it's really funny that no one asks a doctor or a lawyer, you know, that business you're in, that lawyer business, that's kind of fake and phony, isn't it? Now tell me you and the judge get together back there and you talk about that stuff. Now listen, doctor, when it comes to stitching people up, can you show me how I can do that so I don't have to go pay you $300 to do it? But in our business, they all go, hey, we know you guys get together and talk about that. It's all fake and phony, huh? It's our business. 10 million people watch it every Monday night. 80,000, 90,000 people come to watch it in an arena. Millions watch it around the world. But yet, we're fake and phony. And everyone wants to know our inside secrets. But no other profession will ever expose their inside secrets.
That's true.
I get really pissed about this, you know. And when I'm sitting on a plane or somewhere, or somebody says, "Oh, you're into that," and I'll get a little bit X-rated. "Oh, you're into that wrestling shit, that fake phony bullshit," and I say, "What kind of business you in, sir?" "Oh, well, I'm over here at this car dealership, and I'm the general manager over there." "Well, how many times you bring a person in and you fuck them on a car deal?" "Oh, we never do." "Okay, you never do that." "Okay, you fake phony car business." And I can say that about, I'm not knocking the car business because I was in the car business. It obviously fits into my fake phony wrestling business. So, but there again, you see where I'm going with how people knock our business, or they knock what we're doing, not even really knowing anything about it, other than the fact it's one of the highest rated TV shows in America every Monday night. But yet it's looked upon as a bullshit, phony, fake business. Oh, and then here's another thing. And you guys were almost trying to touch on it earlier about the product and how it's it's not as good as it was. And when there's 80 or 90,000 people who come to watch an event, in Santa Clara, they set the outdoor attendance record for that stadium last year. How can you say, and people come up to me every day I'm at a Comic-Con or every day I'm at a wrestling show, we don't watch it anymore. And I go, well, somebody is. Oh, we don't watch it. It's not the same. Well, if it's not the same, how do you know if you're not watching it? So for that, I have to say, the business will always survive. It will go on forever. Vince knows this, believe me. He might take a hit here and there, and the low ratings here and there, or a show that's not as good, or the talent's not as good, but believe me, this thing will be back. It'll be back bigger and better than ever. Once they find another big star, they're rocking and rolling again, boys.
Well, personally, I'd like to see it because with the declining ratings, the declining interest, my website has taken a little bit of a hit. So I would like to see something jumpstart this business a little bit.
I equate it to pro boxing. Pro boxing is, there's no great heavyweights in pro boxing, and no one cares about watching the lightweights. Nothing against the lightweights, but they want to see these big giants go at each other. And until we get some these bigger than life characters that can just come into your living room by that television and jump out and grab you and shake you and bring you down to that arena, it's going to stay the same or go worse. Believe me. I think believe me, you need everything on the card. You need sheiks and freaks and geeks. Really, it is. It's a sideshow. Wrestling is a sideshow. It's a circus. All entertainment's a sideshow and a circus. The Super Bowl has become a sideshow. There used to be a football game that was the greatest game in the world on television. It was called the Super Bowl. Now it's a television show that features a ball game, and a lot of people tune in because they don't even watch football, but they want to see is who's going to sing and dance at intermission.
Or the commercials.
So there you go. There you go. That's the business nowadays. I'm with it, man. I'm not living. I love the past and I love history, but we don't live in history. History is something we look at and move on to the next thing. I wish I could develop something and be the next big thing. I wish I could. What could I die and come back as? Hey, brother.
Well, I don't know. You mentioned Hulk Hogan, and I know that you have been following this trial with Gawker here. And I guess yesterday he established that Hulk Hogan, the character, has a 10-inch penis, but the man, Terry Bollea, is a lot smaller than that, brother.
You know what would have been really good? Oh, he's laughing like crazy. I did too. I was watching this yesterday or day before. I have been glued to this thing like stink on doo-doo. I've been glued to it now. Let me get PG. I've been glued to it like bark on a tree. So I think the lawyer should have said, okay, now if Hulk Hogan doesn't have this size of a manliness, then what does Terry Bollea have? And make him answer it under oath. And then, if he perjures himself, he's got a real big problem. He's got to whip it out right there in the courtroom. You see how silly this is. You guys mentioned this trial now. This is how silly this whole thing has become because I've been watching it, and it's been hilariously entertaining. And I understand that you know, Hulkster might believe his privacy was invaded somehow. But when you go into your best friend's bedroom and you're bedding his wife, what kind of privacy you expect? What if Bubba? I told my son earlier before I came on your show. What if Bubba had, and Bubba was there and said, okay, when you guys go ahead, do what you want to do. I'm gonna go in the other room here. What if Bubba sat there, had a few drinks, got all wound up, pulled a gun out, said, you know what? I'm going to go in there and shoot that son of a... Busted through the door. Here's Hogan laying with his wife. Bing, bing. Heck, Bubba could have got away with murder. You're in a man's house. You're bedding his wife. Unbelievable.
What do you think the outcome's going to be of this trial?
Well, right now, unless they get done with it pretty soon, and we're out here on the I'm in on your time. It's about 3:00, so I don't know. They should be tidying it up by now. I don't think it. Really, personally, seeing and listening to everything that's happened in the trial, it probably should not have gone past discovery phase. And what's going to happen, I do not know. You know, I'm a bad judge of characters and a bad judge of a lot of things. Like, I never believed the Undertaker character would ever have taken off. You know, pile driving somebody, zipping them up in a body bag. I thought it was like, this is poor taste. It's never going to work. Obviously, I was wrong. I was very wrong. When I saw the blood evidence and I saw all this stuff in the O.J. trial, I thought, there's no way this guy's he's going to fry. I was wrong there, so you know I don't know. I really don't know. Whatever happens, I'll reserve judgment until it comes out, and once the judgment's there, then I will either agree or disagree.
I know you're up to date on what's going on in the world here. What do you kind of make of politics here, the presidential race? I mean, because it seems like sometimes that's more entertaining than the wrestling business. How do you handicap this?
Well, I mean, for the one kid, you know, the one kid who drank water all the time, and I love it because this Donald Trump's fabulous. He is absolutely fabulous. I told my son, I said, you know, Donald Trump and Vince McMahon, they're friends. They probably talk all the time. He said, you think so? I said, of course. I said, there's no way Donald can be thinking this stuff up on his own. And he's got to be talking to Vince. Vince's got to say, yeah, because when he talked about that Carly Fiorina, who would vote for an ugly face like that? That's straight out of something. And about 2 days later, Sean Hannity, I'm watching that show. Sean Hannity comes on and says, Mr. Trump, this thing, it sounds like something straight out of Vince McMahon of WWE. And Trump, right off the first of the show, says, yes, I've worked with WWE, Vince McMahon. He's a great guy. We talk to each other all the time. I said, son, he just said it. He said it. They talk to each other. But it's been fabulous. It's been great for politics. It's been great for our country. It's been great for everything. Now, given what Hogan is trying to do with his privacy, when you talk about the size of Donald Trump's hands, he might have a lawsuit also in Florida. Oh, come on. You know, and you know what? If I had been, and if I ever get in trouble, this Gawker lawyer, I want him. I want him on my side. This guy's great. He's fabulous. He took the journalist, he took the expert journalist witness, and he sliced and diced. He carved him up like a fat Christmas turkey. I've never seen anything like it. But anyway, all these things are said, even though they say these things, and even though Hogan, when he left his home, here's what I believe. When he walked out of the confines of his house, of his private home, he became a public figure. He became Hulk Hogan. He became whatever he is. And you're food for fodder then. You can expect to be videoed. You can expect to be photographed. You can expect people to walk up and say things to you. You have to maintain your composure. Look, people walk up to me all the time and say, I hated you. You were the sorriest character. I hated that character, you Elvis impersonator. Okay, now I could get offended and punch the guy, and next thing you know, I'm getting sued. So I think the political thing has been fabulous. It's bringing people into the political realm again, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing. No matter who wins or loses, it doesn't matter. Because the direction of our country is kind of like the WWE and what you guys said earlier. When is it going to bounce back? Well, it's taken a long time to get where we are. It's going to take a long time to come back.
What did you think of Jesse Ventura getting in the political race this year?
He's not going anywhere. Why does he do that? He's I'm going to run. Come on, man. He said he doesn't even live in the States anymore. He moved to Mexico, and he said he's never coming back to the States. He said, I pay taxes one time down there and never to pay again on my land taxes. Why would I want to come back to the States? Jesse's Jesse, you know, and I like him. I always have. He gave me some good advice when I was in WWE and got ready to lose the belt and everything. And he was the one who came up with the idea of the 1-800 vote of confidence for the Honky Tonk Man. He's good at what he does. He's really good at it. I mean, I like to listen to his nonsense. because it's all nonsense.
So do you think Trump's going to win this?
I think so. It's going to be really good, and I think that he's touching a nerve with people across America that hasn't been touched in a long time. And do we need a superhero, a character like he is, to come along? We've not had a character like this since the movie star Ronald Reagan. These blue collar or blue coat or blue bloods. Let me put it that way. These blue bloods, I don't know, the establishment type people on both sides of the party, both aisles. We need something different in America. We need a kickstart, and I think a guy like Trump who's coming along, and you know, he's going below the belt on everybody. It's a good thing right now. It's become our society. It really has.
One more wrestling question. What do you think of Shane McMahon coming back?
I think it's a great piece of work. It might be a little too late. A lot of people might not remember, but WWE has a good way of bringing people's memories back by showing footage and things like that in the interview segments. The reason he's coming back, I have no idea. I know he's a fabulous person, a great guy. He's a good guy in and out of the ring. He's very, very talented in the ring. I always thought he would be the guy that would take over and run that company. That's what I always thought. And if he's back to help the company, then he's back where he needs to be, because I think he's a very, very positive asset.
And what do you make of the Jimmy Snuka situation with the trial there?
I'm going to reserve judgment on that one also. It's a terrible, terrible thing. It's terrible that what happened there, and that probably during that period of time, a lot of people don't remember because of the things that were going on inside the hotel rooms, after hours, and the things the wrestlers were probably doing, that some of them probably don't even remember being in that town. And what I have to say is the family of that girl, they never gave up. And that's a testament to them to not give up. And there again, I'll reserve judgment until however it comes out, and because it's not for me to say.
And lastly, have they contacted you about the Hall of Fame? And when is the greatest Intercontinental Champion going in the Hall of Fame?
Well, the things I say about WWE here and there, and you guys are going to post this, and they're all going to hear it. Howard Finkel, I know you're going to be listening. Believe me, I do not sit around the house, twiddle my thumbs and chew my nails, hoping and praying or worrying that the next caller ID pops up as a 203 area code.
Stamford, Connecticut.
so if that makes sense to you, and if you guys can chew on that one a little bit and ponder it after I go off the air, then say whatever you look. If that comes around, it comes around. It came around once. I couldn't, because of other agreements I had. I couldn't do it. Whether they understood or they didn't understand, that's fine with me. But a deal's a deal. I had with someone else, and I honored the deal. If they bring it back again, who knows? I mean, I don't know. If it happens, it happens, but it's going to be on my terms, I can tell you that.
It must be like when you're on the independent circuit and you do these wrestling conventions, it's got to be like one of the most asked questions is, when is the Honky Tonk Man going into the WWE Hall of Fame, right?
Oh, gosh, yes. That's it's one of those things, and I answered the same way I just did with you guys, because it's a canned answer. No, but it's one of those things where I have no control over it. It's a one or two man, or it's not a committee or anything like that, and so it's, hey, for guys to say that they're happy about it and they enjoy doing it and everything, that's great for them. For me, it's, I'm kind of like superstar Billy Graham. There's nothing in my closet that, as far as pictures and videos or ring attire or anything that has a sentimental value to it. Everything is negotiable and everything can be sold. Because he did sell a ring for $14,000 British pound.
Well, I guess it's just from the wrestling fans' perspective. We want to see you go in, just like we want to see Teddy Long go in, and the British Bulldog and Rick Rude and all these other guys. Put them in already. What's the holdup here? I know,
and well, it's the same as baseball. Hey,
yeah,
Pete Rose should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. I don't give a shit what he did.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, come on. I mean, why do you pick on one guy? You know, come on. I mean, see. And when it gets to the point where it's if it was really real, you could get into it. But because there's personal attitudes about someone that they don't get in, no matter what they accomplished, then it's not really real anymore.
Well, I mean, like the
baseball, football, or anywhere.
The Godfather's going in the Hall of Fame, for heaven's sake. I mean, the Godfather?
Well, I mean, he's got a whole train.
I mean, come on. The whole train's going to the Hall of Fame. Come on.
Well, I hope he brings a lot of hoes with him. That's
some Hall of Fame hoes, baby.
Hey, you know, there again, we're all laughing about it. So it's entertaining and it's fun, and you know, it is what it is. I went back and did that thing for Koko because, not for WWE, I did it because I thought Koko deserved to be in the Hall of Fame as much as anybody else. And not only that, I was honored to be asked to be the one to do it. And the people that called me, they didn't even know the history. And they did not even know that Koko and I had trained together for 9 months. That Koko and I had hundreds of matches together after that, and then and all those things that went into it. And they said, and I told them that, and they said, "Oh, can you get it done in 3 minutes?" I said, "Of course I can." And so it's hard to lay out someone's history that you're inducting them into a Hall of Fame and do it in 3 minutes, but I was able to do it, and I was glad to do it for Koko because we've been friends for over 30 years, 40 years since we started in 1976 or something. It's been, and for me to say, well, no, I'm not going to induct him because I'm not in the Hall of Fame. So I didn't even think about, well, if I go induct Koko, maybe I'll get in. I had no motives behind it at all. It was sure, man, I'll go do it. I'll be glad to.
Well, the fans waited a long time for Savage, and we waited a long time for Ultimate Warrior. Now we've waited a long time for Honky Tonk Man. So,
well, I can tell you this: at WrestleMania weekend, I will be at WrestleCon.
Okay.
I will be there. Well, I'm with High Spots at WrestleCon. I have my booth. I'll be there with Bushwhacker Luke. Coming up in 2 weeks, by the time you guys play this, actually it's next week. Next weekend, I'll be in Chicago, and I will be at C2E2, and I'll have a booth there. So, I know you guys say, well, how can we find Honky Tonk Man? I'm easy to find, man. I'm easy to find. You know, Wiki. People say, well, do you have a website? Do you have this? I said, just go to Wikipedia. They know everything.
That's true. And we'll, of course, plug everything here. And I know this weekend you're going to be in Ohio, right?
Yes, I'm going up to Ohio for a Bobby Fulton show. I've never worked for Bobby before, and he's been promoting and wrestling for as long as I have. And this weekend we're in a tag match in Medina, at the Medina High School. I forget the name of the town it's in. But yeah, this weekend I'm heading up to Columbus and do that with Bobby, and then next weekend we got Chicago. Then I have the one-man comedy show in Effingham, Illinois, and then out to WrestleCon, and we'll take it from there.
And of course, at official HTM Honky Tonk Man and honkytonkman.net.
Yes, we've had some trouble with the website, so don't hold us to the fact that the website's not up or down, but hey, Twitter is the thing now, man. Hey, if Donald Trump could tweet, I can.
Are you ever going to bring back the podcast?
No, I don't think so.
Love that podcast. That was
I know, and you know what? We had over 120,000 people listening to it, downloading it, and I mean, if you think about it, the Honky Tonk Man was the first to do the podcast, and now everyone else does podcast. it was fun, but I tell you what, and you guys know this, it's difficult, it's hard. I had to spend a day or 2 days prior to the show and during the day of the show putting together news items and going on your site, finding newsworthy stuff, trying to get some inside information, some scoops that no one else had, then getting a guest on and hoping the guest would be a good guest, or hoping the guest would even answer the phone after you promised me to be there. And I won't be blunt. I will be off PG now. It was a pain in the ass.
Amen, brother. Well, I tell you what, Honky, whenever you want to be on our show, you're always welcome. That's for sure.
I would love to drop in and do a quick segments with people and interview certain people and talk some trash and get some real newsworthy stuff out there. But it was we were doing the show live, and that's another thing. A live show is very difficult. We didn't screen any of the guests. We didn't screen any of the callers. We didn't screen anything. We took it face value as it was, and we had a lot of fun with it. I mean, that thing that I had on there with my friend from Toronto doing the Ric Flair, it was hilarious. It was so funny, and every time I listened to it, I bust a gut. It was, I'm tired of you calling me saggy ass. It was so funny, but yeah, and the things we said about TNA and the way we did that. I'm lucky that they didn't probably try to sue me, but I said a lot worse things about them than probably Scott Steiner did. In fact, I'm glad for Scotty, and I'm glad that thing got kicked out of court because it was going nowhere.
The greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. He's cool, he's cocky, he's bad. Always appreciated, Honky.
He's controversial, he's cutting edge, he's all those things.
Once again, Steve, the greatest Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, you remember that. Wait a minute, Gene, it's heavyweight. It says it right here on the belt.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.